take a look at these two phrases. They both say Kazakh language in Kazakh. One uses the Cyrillic alphabet, one uses the Latin alphabet. Why would a country go through all the trouble of phasing into a different alphabet when they could just use the one they have now? There are several reasons a country will do this, whether it be for religious reasons like Vietnam, readability purposes like Turkey, whatever it may be. Now, the reason Kazakhstan is phasing into the Latin alphabet is to cut ties with their past as part of the USSR. And I was thinking, what other influences did the USSR have linguistically in the region of Eastern Europe and Central Asia that we don't really notice? Now, I'm not talking about just like Russian loan words here and there, just like systems that, like writing systems that are used or not used because of the 70 years that the USSR was around. So that's basically what I'm here to talk about today. Let's get into it. Many of you might have been assuming that at the point that the USSR was founded, the Cyrillic alphabet and Russian were immediately imposed upon everyone, and this isn't true. The Cyrillic alphabet had actually been used in the region for centuries, along with the Arabic script, because of political reasons and religious reasons. And so throughout the 1920s, the USSR wasn't trying to impose Russian and the Cyrillic alphabet on everyone. They weren't going to be able to do that. They weren't going to be able to just uproot everyone's lives in several different countries. They actually promoted Latin alphabets for many minority languages. Then throughout the 1930s and 40s, that's when they started to impose the Russian and Cyrillic alphabet. So it's not just, they immediately started imposing like a whole new system on everyone. They didn't. So many of you might be wondering, so why Cyrillic? Why wouldn't they just like let everyone stick to their own alphabet and language? Well, it all stems from administrative efficiency. They wanted to be able to control everyone under their grasp easier, and they didn't want to be able to say this in their own country and enter Belarus or Ukraine and have to use this. But then from there it goes into, it was easier to educate children across the USSR using one alphabet. It was just more efficient in every way to use one alphabet across the entire Soviet Union. Now let's look at what happened after the fall of the USSR. after the 1991 fall of the Soviet Union, naturally everyone went their separate ways linguistically. Now there were several countries that decided to stay with the Cyrillic alphabet, despite not being tied to Russia anymore. Not being tied to the Soviet Union anymore. These countries are Russia, Belarus, Bulgaria, Serbia, and Kyrgyzstan. Now, an interesting thing to know is that Serbia officially uses both the Cyrillic and the Latin alphabet, and is the only former member of the USSR that uses both alphabets. Every other one either only uses Cyrillic or only uses Latin. Now, I'm going to ask the opposite question to what I asked at the beginning, which was, why would a country go through all that trouble to change their whole way of life? Why would a country want to keep that constant reminder? Now, this was like a very dark period of time for millions and millions of people, and this was a consideration, obviously, to several countries like Azerbaijan, Uzbekistan, Turkmenistan, and currently Kazakhstan, who will be soon completely phasing into the Latin alphabet. This is to majorly to preserve national identity. They don't want to think of themselves as former USSR members. They don't consider Russia part of who they are. Obviously, the USSR influenced them, but they don't feel a sense of Russian identity. They think of themselves as Kazakhs. And since much of the world does use the Cyrillic alphabet, doesn't use the Cyrillic alphabet, this transition affords a greater integration with the rest of the world. Now, obviously, there are practical challenges. That's the flip side of the coin. It's going to be millions of dollars in everything that has language on it. They aren't going to be using Cyrillic anymore. And it's important to think that, when we think of empires, we often think of just bridges and monuments and landmarks, but every time someone opens up a textbook that's a part of history, it uses language that's so molded by history. Now, moving on from that, I'd like you to stay tuned for the end to hear just stuff about the channel, if you wanna. So, if y'all wanna see content like this, or even better content, every like is super appreciated, and every comment is going to be taken into consideration. Of course, if you look at the description of the channel, try and keep the environment, the vibes friendly. We just be nice, but yeah, I'm still really just trying to figure out what I'm going to do about this channel. I just, there are so many things I'd like to talk about, but like, it takes me time to flesh them out into solid ideas. And yeah, I really just want to hear your feedback about what you'd like to see on this channel in terms of language, music, theology. I have coins. If that's interesting to you, I have this Greek coin. But yeah, if any of that is of any interest to you, please let me know. Love to hear your feedback. Try and keep your feedback constructive. If it's like not like good feedback, just try and keep it either friendly or constructive. I'm obviously not going to take it personally if it's not like, oh, you did great on this. But yeah, everything you guys do is like, it will be super appreciated. And just let me know what you guys would like to see. And let me know what you'd like to see improved on this channel.